So this next so this next segment I'm going to call Boredom and Avoidant Attachment, how to reframe your fears. So, do you struggle with receiving love once it shows up? Maybe you've been on a few good dates, you're practicing all your secure attachment skills, and you're feeling pretty good about how well you've managed your anxiety, fears, or insecurities up until this point. So you're feeling confident, you're riding those high-flying feelings, and then, bam, FOMO rears its ugly head, which is fear of missing out, right? Right when things get intimate, you're hit with a wave of doubt and maybe even revulsion. Suddenly, all of your limiting beliefs about the possibilities of love in the world come bubbling up to the surface. And it seems impossible that you could ever really be satisfied with just one person, or maybe you doubt that you could ever make this one person happy, or maybe one fear begets the next. And so you start worrying about feeling bored and a need for excitation, stimulation, and novel conquest. You start thinking about all the ways in which you're going to break this person's heart. Maybe you worry about the guilt that you'll feel over it, or the guilt that they will try to make you feel over it. Or maybe you worry about the hassle it will be trying to explain to them what went wrong. And so your softer feelings turn off. And now you're stuck in your head, and you're a million miles away from where you started, confused about when or why that happened. Since you'd been interested enough before, why the sudden change of heart? So maybe you decide, it must just be the chemistry, and write it off as a fluke and get back on Tinder and continue swiping right or left looking for new stimulation and another novel conquest. Otherwise, you might be left feeling bored and alone, a circumstance which feels intolerable and like a waste of time. Bing! A new person matches with you, and the cycle starts all over again. Right? Now, if this sounds familiar, whether it's your story or it's the story of someone that you know, I would invite you to stick around for this segment, because in this video segment, we're going to break down some underlying mechanisms of boredom, how avoidance fears can trigger our defensive responses, and how to reframe those fears into affirmative statements of desire. Now, by the end of this segment, you will know how to recognize when boredom is pointing towards being in a survival mode response, how to identify when your thoughts are a reflection of defensive fear, and how to use the power of your words to open up the possibilities of love for you and release you from limited ideas about intimate connection and a habit of compartmentalizing emotional from sexual satisfaction. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Brianna McWilliam, and I am a licensed and board-certified creative arts therapist, author, and educator with more than 15 years in the field, helping adults struggling with insecure attachment go from self-doubting to self-sovereign so they can attract those soul-shaking, passionate partnerships that they want. Today, I'm going to be sharing a clip of a live stream event that took place inside my private Facebook groups, which people can access once they've purchased one of my online courses. If you're interested in finding out if you might have insecure attachment, check out the link in the caption of this video. You'll be able to take an easy 4-question quiz and find out your attachment style, plus a detailed explanation. Now, if you like what you see in here, and you haven't yet, make sure that you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. I put up videos once or twice a week, and sometimes I will do occasional live streams through my YouTube channel, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. So to begin our discussion and bring this into the realms of the practical and the applicable, I'm going to share a post that a brave soul in my Facebook community offered for examination. So this individual said, "I've noticed a pattern that often when I'm sexually intimate with someone for the first time or in the beginning stages of dating, a wave of revulsion comes over me somewhere halfway through. A voice inside me says, this is fun for now, but if I'm going to have to keep having sex with this same person, it will be unbearably boring, and I don't think I can keep doing this." Now, usually there's a pang of self-judgment following this thought, because I know that this isn't the thought that a secure person would have. I understand I'm hitting a wall or a limiting belief of some sort, and that this is in fact a distancing strategy coming out of a fear-based mindset. However, the feeling is so strong, it's difficult to overwrite it. So let's unpack this statement, and I want to offer some reflections and reframes. Okay. A wave of revulsion overcomes me somewhere halfway through. Now, this is an embodied visceral reaction, which might clue you into the fact that your sympathetic nervous system is detaching you from the moment and sending you in flight mode as you escape to your head and away from the body's revulsion. So it's finding a safe distance from the blending of physical and emotional intimacy. A voice inside me says, this is fun for now, but if I'm gonna have to keep having sex with the same person, it will be unbearably boring and I don't think I can keep doing this. So a protective aspect of your ego then kind of chimes in to make sense of the revulsion and the automatic rejection response. And it searches for evidence in your experience, past or present, to support it. It then translates that experience into a limiting belief that would reinforce maintaining emotional distance and a withholding of emotional investment as a way to keep yourself safe from whatever the perceived threat might be. So why invest in something at all if life has proven to you that it's only going to fail? Yet previously, let's just assume that you consciously assess this person as an attractive individual and someone that you would want to have sex with. So consider that the repulsed response could be automatic and instinctive because it's not quite logical and it seems to be, in your own assessment, a bit out of context. Meaning it's not quite tied to anything this specific person did before or during the sex. It also carries with it a sense of urgency and immediacy. I gotta put the kibosh on this now before he starts to catch some feelings, gets hurt, and I feel bored and or guilty about it. Right. Now, that's not to say that your intuition could not pick up on something that is, in an intimate moment that might change your assessment of the viability of this partner, but it would likely be something a bit more subtle and a little bit less inexplicable, let's say. So it might sound something more like this. Not so sure we gel in the sexual chemistry department, but everything else up until this point has felt pretty good. Exploring this area with some communication and gentle guidance could turn things around. Let's give it a bit more time and effort and see how it goes. Actually, communicating my needs around this topic could help me to see how he responds to me when I vocalize my needs. And that will tell me a lot about his character and how much more I might be willing to invest in this long term. If he responds well, it might mean that he's open to the kind of novelty that would keep me engaged in a long-term relationship. Whatever novelty looks like for you. It could even be open relationships or multiple sex partners. Now, usually there's a pang of self-judgment following this thought because I know that this isn't the thought that a secure person would have. Well, is this thought a judgment? Or is it really just an observation? Okay. Now it sounds more like there is an intuitive observation that the automatic thought and or feeling you were having could be a defensive response that got activated. It seems like you actually were consciously aware of that. You might now describe that observation as judgmental because there are other underlying limiting beliefs that tell you you have to be a certain way, right? In other words, behave and feel like a textbook secure person to really authentically connect with and or deserve an intimate partner. So this thought may have actually tipped you off to and revealed a bit of the underlying vulnerability and concern, which you basically then recognized in your own way when you said, I understand that I'm hitting a wall or a limiting belief of some sort, and that this is in fact a distancing strategy coming out of a fear-based mindset. Bravo. I would 100% agree with that. And then you even give us a bit more information when you say, however, the feeling is so strong that it's difficult to overwrite it. So this describes an efforting that is occurring, an efforting aimed at overwriting. Right? A feeling that you judge as unacceptable because it's not what a secure person should, would, think, do, or feel in that situation, right? Now, I would advise taking a pause here just to acknowledge the feeling and determine what is, let's call it, the vibrational signature of that efforting? So is the efforting an attempt to escape the feeling, suppress the feeling? Is it a rage butting up against the feeling? So whatever it is, the effort that you are exerting is probably some form of pushing or pulling against that experience of revulsion, the thoughts that came along with it, and whatever vulnerability actually lies beneath it. And so pushing or pulling is only going to add more momentum to it. So in turn, this reinforces the limiting beliefs that are layered on top of it, and they keep that vulnerable core safely locked down, right? I will get bored. I will hurt people that try to love me. I don't deserve this. Physical and emotional intimacy is too dangerous to entertain. That's a little notification there. Look how messed up I am, that I'm even thinking these things while I'm having sex. I will never be secure enough to be with a secure person, right? Now, in other words, I suspect that the feeling is only going to get stronger the more that you try to override it, okay? And I would also add here that boredom is a word that I hear a lot with insecurely attached individuals, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized. And usually it's a blanket word that adds a layer of distraction, or we might think of it as kind of like a dissociative fog over limiting beliefs like this about ourselves, about the role and or sources of stimulation in our lives, and notions about where our sense of creative energy and vitality actually stem from. Okay, so sometimes it can be a trauma response because we are so used to a certain level of activation in our nervous system, usually the sympathetic nervous system, that confuses anxiety with excitement and entertaining survival mode ideas about how to earn love to prove our worth, which attracts us to challenging partners that make us work for every ounce of love we get, that make us view them as novel conquests, right? And that we experience as novel stimulation that makes us feel high. Now, very intimately, I know the complaint of feeling bored and worrying about committing to any one partner for the fear of missing out on something or someone else. But on the backside of that, there's a belief that I don't have it within me to be the source of my own vitality and enlivenment. I'm not in command of my own actions and behaviors, and I cannot resist the pull of a novel fantasy that takes me out of the reality of the present moment. And so I am predestined to hurt the one I love and to disappoint them and to be disappointed. But, you know, the spoiler alert, of course, is that those are not true. These are not true things, which means that boredom is really more of a road sign, pointing us towards an aspect, in this case, I'll keep it on myself, an aspect of my ego that believes it's keeping me safe, right? By deterring me from taking any risks or chances on an abiding love. And while this may have served me in the past, now in a new context, it's a defense mechanism that is preventing me from connecting to my own vitality and source energy as the true source and impetus for unending stimulation and novelty, regardless of my circumstances. And so adopting the belief that I can assume responsibility for my own stimulation, passion, and entertainment in any and every circumstance, you know, that's a way of choosing to commit to myself. And that's how much power I truly have. Okay. And I still have to make a practice of reminding myself of that every day. And so here are some other fears that we dig into in our course on Avoidant Attachment 101, and some examples of how we can turn these into affirmative statements, right? So in the course Avoidant Attachment 101, we arrive at these statements using a focus wheel exercise, but for our purposes here, I'm just going to show you the before and after statements so that you can see how we can take a look at an underlying vulnerability and fear and turn it around into a statement, affirmative statement of what's essentially an unspoken desire, okay? And I just want to note that these were fears that were originally offered by individuals in my Facebook community who self-identified as having avoidant attachment. So the fear might be my instinctive reaction to when anything bad happens is to want to leave. So I fear that I'll actually walk out on the relationship purely due to my attachment anxiety or fear of intimacy. I fear even getting into a relationship because I'm scared I'll subconsciously ghost, neglect, or hurt them by just being who I am. So there's an unspoken desire on the backside of that fear, and it might sound something like this. I feel worthy of love and trust myself to be in complete command of my inner life and my actions. In this way, I am free to take easeful pleasure in partnership because I know I will hold my boundaries no matter what, which staves off the anxiety and fear of being subsumed by the relationship. Here's another one. It's a fear. For me, it's the fear of not being good enough. It's almost like, why would someone want me when there's more smarter, beautiful, confident, thinner people out there to choose from? I know past relationship failures and hurts, along with a very harsh inner critic, really play a part for me. So, the unspoken affirmative desire might sound like this. I feel worthy of love and confident in my uniqueness and singularity in the world. There's only one me. This acceptance of myself allows me to understand and receive the love and regard of those who understand how special I truly am and deeply appreciate that about me. Okay, and we'll do one more. So this is another fear which I thought related in particular to today's question. My first thought about getting involved in a relationship is that I don't want to let myself get in too deep because I don't feel secure enough. I'm having difficulty opening up myself and I need time and space. I don't feel secure enough. Then if I finally make it, I'm afraid that I'm going to get bored too soon. And I've felt bored plenty of times in the past. Also, if the other person is getting too close too soon, at first I'm flattered, but then I'm suffocated. In general, I'm constantly having doubts about the relationship, and I tend to remember the bad times more than I do the good times. So here's an affirmative statement of desire that we could offer. I'm in complete command of my passionate feelings, and I'm on fire about life, regardless of my partner's attitude. I don't need external sources of stimulation to dictate my thoughts, feelings, or behaviors, nor do I need them as distractions from a negative self-opinion. I know I'm worthy, and I will succeed at anything I value enough to commit myself to, including relationships. I appreciate and acknowledge the pull of infatuation, but I don't let it sweep me away. I'm perfectly fine with taking things slow because I know relationships of substance take time and a steady pace, and my life experience has taught me that substance is what I truly want. To accomplish this, I can establish firm but flexible boundaries with lovers, so that I don't let things pile up and feel pushed to the brink of suffocation before expressing what I'm really feeling. I'm not pushed around by uncomfortable feelings. In fact, my discomfort reminds me of where I may have an opportunity to open up a part of myself that wasn't safe to explore before. Because now I know these things about myself, I know I am perfectly capable of finding a loving and healthy relationship of my own design. Okay. All right, so if this is something that you have enjoyed or you'd like to learn more about how to create affirmative statements like this, and you haven't purchased it, you can check out the online course for Avoidant Attachment 101, 5 Days to Decode the Rolling Stones Love Map. And I can include a link to that in the caption of this video later when we're done.